Thank you for invitation. The pleasure is totally mine, and my congratulations for the European Song Contest. So I don't know if it's a bigger thing than basic income that I'm going to speak about here and what we are speaking about today. So that it's a big thing, at least in Finland, and we were very much celebrating. And then in the final phase, hoping that it will be you, not our very dear neighbor Sweden, that is constantly on top in the song contest, so that it has been a little bit boring in that sense. But there's some justification in life. So I have a lot of slides. I will not speak about everything. I have everything about the Finnish basic income experiment and why the basic income is here in quotation marks is that the friends of basic income are constantly saying to me that actually what you are experimenting is not the basic income, it's something else. And you will soon hear what the something else is. So the background of the experimentation is that the present Center to Right government in Finland decided in its governmental program almost 2 years ago that they will carry out experimentation with basic income. And the reason why they did that kind of decision is that in Finland, like everywhere, we are thinking that there are big changes in the labor markets taking place. Robotization, digitalization will change the ways we are doing things. But at least in Finland, there are two camps. On that camp, we have the Social Democrats and trade unions that are saying that nothing has happened, nothing has changed, and nothing will change in the future. We can have this social policy system that we have already now in place, and it will certainly answer all those challenges that we will face in a couple of decades. And on the other hand, we have those guys that usually are in favor of basic income. They are saying that robotization and digitalization will change the mode of labor, and there will be more and more people who are self-employed, who are employing only themselves, who have freelancer basis, etc. And at least in the Finnish case, the social security is pretty good for employees, whereas the self-employed are falling in between. And especially those self-employed that have the freelancer contracts and who are freelancers. They are neither self-employed nor employees, and they have some problems. And the government wants to see how to do that. And then there are incentive traps and bureaucratic traps. And the incentive traps are as follows. We have lots of income-tested basic security schemes that are paid on top of each other. And because they are income-tested, it leads to a situation that every single euro coming from employment will diminish by €1 social benefits. And in the end of the day, the marginal tax rate may be even 100% or even higher if you take into consideration that there are some, for example, daycare fees for say, single mothers when they are putting their kids in the kindergarten. The fees are not high. The rate is from 0 to 290 euros per month. But anyway, it can lead to a situation where work doesn't pay or work doesn't pay enough. And the government wants to see if basic income is a device to make work pay. And then there are bureaucratic traps. In the Finnish case, basic unemployment compensation is it's not much. It's 560 euros, precisely the same sum of money that we are experimenting in the experiment, but it's promised forever, so that the person who is unemployed she or he can collect it up to her day of pension. And then, if we have a situation where we have monetary disincentive and that bureaucratic disincentive, we have a very, very strong threshold not to take employment. Let's suppose that I'm an unemployed person and I'm getting that basic income, basic security from Employment Office of Social Insurance Institution, Kela, that is my employer. And then an employer contacts me and says that, Olli, I have a job for you for 3 months. And then I make immediately a calculation that is it financially profitable for me to accept it. And I could say that maybe it will be, maybe I would get something like 100 euros or 200 euros more if I'm employed. But then the other thing is that bureaucratic trap. I immediately begin to think that what on earth will happen to me after termination of that 2-3 months job. And will I once again qualify for that benefit that was promised to me to the end of my life or to the end of my working career? And then if I'm trying to avoid risks, I would say no. I'm happy with that money. It's not that much, but I can live on it. And then that leads to the situation that very often people who are living on social benefits, they say no to employment offers. And that's why the government wants to see if basic income or that kind of device that we are experimenting is a solution to those two big problems that we have in the Finnish social security system just now. And when it comes to the political background, I will say very shortly about it, and it's based on what Jürgen has done. In the Finnish case, we have a couple of parties that are in favor of basic income, the Greens, and then the left-wing party and the center party. Whereas True Finns that are in the cabinet now and the Conservatives National Coalition, they are against, so that the only party in the cabinet who is in favor is the Center Party, and the parties in the opposition, Social Democrats, and especially Social Democrats, they are very strongly against basic income, as also is our trade union. They are against basic income. The government reserved 20 million euros for the experiment, and there was an open competition who will carry out the planning of the experiment, and we were unhappy enough to win the competition, and then we started our work, and we didn't know which kind of mess and which kind of nightmare it will be. But finally we managed to do something, and this is that the basic income experiment that we managed to do. Somehow I thought that, I'm thinking that perhaps Tom Cruise had been a better person to do that Mission Impossible than me, but we tried to do things that were very, very difficult to put in place. First of all, the time frame was very short to plan everything. And what the government demanded us to do was very unrealistic to do in that time frame that they gave to us. And they wanted us to study full basic income. That means that the sum had been rather high, 1,000 to 1,500 euro a month, but that was not that realistic politically. It was rolled out because the opposition from the Social Democrats and the Conservatives. And also our trade unions were very much against this kind of model, because our unemployment, income-related unemployment benefits, they are paid out by voluntary unemployment funds that are owned by trade unions. And if we have basic income, say, at the level of 1,000 euro. In that case, trade unions were afraid of that nobody will join the union. And actually, this device that the trade unions are owning the unemployment compensation funds has led to a situation that the union density in Finland is one of the highest in the world, so that it's over 70%. Over 70% of the employees are members in trade unions, and therefore trade unions were very much afraid of this kind of device. And then negative income tax, okay, we did some calculations on the basis of that, but then we thought that, okay, it's not a basic income, and we left it out. And then participatory income, what the English economist Anthony Atkinson has said, but then we left it out because we thought that we can't decide what is valuable enough to be paid for, which kind of voluntary work is valuable. And therefore, we had that partial basic income that was left in the end of the day. And it replaces all basic benefits at the level of 560 euros, because we have lots of basic benefits, basic unemployment money, basic sickness benefit, basic rehabilitation, home care allowance, and lots of them are paid out from Kela. Oh, actually, everything is paid out Kela, and the level is about the same, 560 euros per month. So that it was pretty natural that we took that as a starting point. And why 560 euros? The reason to that was that this experiment that we are having, it's obligatory. Everybody who has been selected in the experiment must participate in the experiment. There are no ways to say that I will not be participating. And this obligation to participate led to a situation that we can't oblige anybody to participate in something that gives less than what they are giving just now. And that what they are getting just now is 560 euros, because they are selected from the unemployed persons who are getting money from social insurance institution from Kela. And the net level is 560 euros, so that was the kind of minimum that we were negotiating. But then we had some problems with our legislation and our constitution that's saying that people must be treated equally. And even to the end of 2016, we were unsure if the Constitutional Committee of the Parliament will accept our models, and therefore we thought that we can't give 1,000 euros to that person and nothing to that person. So that we thought that 560 perhaps is the level that the Constitutional Committee can accept and say that this is not too much to somebody, and it's not too little to those who already are getting something. So that 560 became the minimum, but or the floor, but it also became to be a ceiling in this experiment. So we first made lots of micro simulations based on income register data. I will not say that much about that. I will go directly to the research setting that we planned. We planned that in the very beginning we planned that the total population in the age of 25 to 63 will be selected as the target of the experiment. And then we had an idea to have a nationwide randomized experiment and then local experiments. Randomized nationwide experiments are good in that sense that whatever happens in the country, it will not contaminate the results, because everybody is exposed precisely to the same impact coming from the international markets, coming from everywhere. But the problem with that kind of experiment is that we can't take into consideration and evaluate externalities, interaction effects between people who are getting benefits, because we have 100 persons in Helsinki, 20 persons somewhere else, 1 person here, 2 persons there, and they are not interacting. And in those local experiments, they have changed the way of meeting each other and the ways of meeting social bureaucracy. And happily enough, our Prime Minister was clever enough to say that we can use Kela benefits on the bottom and to fortify our experimental budget, because the experimental budget is only 20 million, and it means that if we have persons who are not getting any social benefits, then we could only have something like 1,000 persons in the experiment, included in the experiment. And that's too little group of people to make a statistical, reliable statistical analysis. And then the government, or the Prime Minister said when I met them that take Kela benefits, that you have something like 3 billion in your disposal to do whatever you want, and then we were happy enough that okay, we can have at least 10,000 persons. But pretty soon reality hit us very strongly, and we had some ideas to have different levels of basic income, just to see how the levels change people's behavior in this or that direction, and then also we had some ideas that there could be some different levels of taxation just to get out the taxation effect or the effect of taxes. But then what happened when the government made the bill, they decided that okay, it's 560 euros and we'll use present taxation on income coming on top of that 560 euros. The 560 euros is tax-free, and all social benefits that are higher than 560 euros, they will be paid on top of that basic basic income, so that the Kela pays a difference between 560 euros and the actual level, just because we can't compel people to participate in something that will make the situation worse. And work income will float on the basis of that 560 euros. And it means that we give money for free, or if you prefer manna from heaven, to those 2,000 persons and say that here's the money, you can run or you can stay wherever you are. But whatever you do, you will have that 560 euros. In the case that you find employment and your salary will be 2,000, in that case you will get 2,000 plus 560 euros. And then only 2,000 unemployed persons from Kela, and it's a random selection where we have experimental group that's getting treatment, 560 euros, and then control group getting nothing extra. And we will follow the results through registers, because in the Finnish case we have good registers, so that we have everybody in our database, and on the basis of social security number we can unify social benefits that the person is getting. We can unify to that the person or work income or income coming from this and that source. We can follow which kind of medicine they are eating. We can see which kind of diagnosis they are getting from medical doctors, etc., so that we will get lots of information through registers without interfering and without doing any interviews and surveys among those people in the experimental group and control group. That the other aspects of welfare, let's say happiness, what the people are actually doing, if they are taking care of their parents, if they are taking care of the kids, whatever, that will be studied through surveys and interviews, and also experiences of bureaucracy will be done in that way. So that is the situation where we are just now. And what we are just proposing to the government is that we could include all kind of low-income individuals and age groups in the experiment. And we proposed a budget from 40 to 70 million euros. And the idea is to make a proper experiment. We have regional experiments precisely in the way that we planned in our first plan. And I think that our first plan was a very fancy and extremely good one. But then we had to somehow give up those possibilities just because of political realities and fiscal reasons. So that let's see what the government will do and if they will accept our ideas. And the idea is that this basic income experiment in quotation marks is just a start. So that in the following, we are very much hoping that this was just a pilot, as we are calling it. It's a pilot. And then hopefully the government will be clever enough. I'm a little bit doubtful of that. Politicians usually are not that clever. I hope that there are no politicians in here, at least in the Finnish case. At least in the Finnish case, they are not that clever to understand what's good. And yeah, I'll stop immediately. I have said to our politicians that this basic income experiment is increasing the reputation of the country much more than you politicians are destroying it when you are traveling here and there and doing silly things. So that this was my story.